Good morning, everybody. This is Sue, and I'm fairly new to this organization. I have to tell you, I'm very impressed at the support that is provided and the information, and I'd like to say thank you to the people responsible. So why am I talking strange? Well, this journey, you're probably seeing me at my best because I'm sitting down. But if I was to stand up, you'd notice I can hardly walk. My larynx closes up, so I'm unable to talk at all. I've been fumbling in the dark for probably 10 to 15 years with symptoms that were unexplainable. It started off slowly, and then after COVID, and I'm not saying COVID is responsible, this condition has just catapulted out of all control. So what is it? It's called dystonia, and I have probably the worst type because it affects my whole body, not just parts of my body, but my whole body. It's destroyed my life. It's taken my driver's license away. In fact, when I first became sick in 1985, I was a very, very active person. Used to run, go to the gym every day, do dragon boat racing, and I was very active. Then in 1985, I came out in a massive rash that expanded over a large proportion of my body. In those days, we didn't have Google, so you basically relied on the doctor. And the doctor diagnosed me with I'll come back to that because I can't think it. My brain is not working properly. Anyway, from that day on, I was never ever the same. Toxic shock syndrome, which there may have been a component in that, but that wasn't the main reason. And from that moment on, I was a different person. I instantly developed chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, pains in every joint. In fact, it was horrendous. Then one day, I became even sicker, and I went from doctor to doctor, and some said some stupid things. I then went to iridologist, who said, "My dear, I don't know what's wrong with you, but there is something seriously wrong." That day, I struggled to get back to the car, and my husband of the day came to help me. When I woke up the next day, I was even worse and couldn't get out of bed. My body was racked in pain and just wouldn't work. I went down to Edelston's practice, if you remember what they were. They had white grand pianos in the foyer. And I saw this doctor, and I explained what was happening to me. And by then I had lumps coming up on my legs, red lumps that were sore. So he sent me for a chest x-ray, which I thought that is very strange. Anyway, when I got the results, he looked at them and he called his colleague in, and they had a discussion. And they decided that I had something called sarcoidosis, which is basically an inflammatory disease. So I was sent to a cardiologist, and I was treated for sarcoidosis. And unfortunately, because I didn't know any better, I was put on prednisone, which, as you know, destroys your immune system. So life went on. Then a couple of years later, I had a lump in my chest. I went from doctor to doctor, and everybody dismissed it as one of those women's lumps. Anyway, to cut a long story short, which is a story in itself, it ended up being breast cancer. And that was in 1989. Well, I have radiation. And would you believe it, but years later, and I'm talking about this year, the radiation has caught up with me. And it encapsulated my implant. So I've had to undergo a reasonably big operation to have that implant removed. And because I would be so big on one side, I had to have the other one cut down. And I'm still recovering from that now. Well, things have never got any better. I went from having seizures, I was laughed at, I was thrown out of hospital, I was told it was all in my head. I couldn't lift my legs at times, I couldn't lift my arms. At times I couldn't walk, but it was more intermittent then than what it was now. So the nurses saw me walking. So what do? They tell the doctors and the specialists, that woman has got nothing wrong with her. She is walking fine. But what they didn't know, they didn't understand. Neither did the neurologists. They had no idea. I've been thrown out of hospitals, been told, asked why I'm here. I've even been blind and told that there's nothing wrong with you. Sent to a neurologist that said I could fix me with psychiatric treatment. Luckily, I'm strong, and I advise you all to never give up and always keep hope in your heart, and don't let what's happening to you destroy you. Be stronger than that. And that's what has kept me going. So over the years, I've had constant diagnosis, thyroid, parathyroid gland swollen, lymphocytic colitis. I could go on and on and on. Anyway, I had a pain doctor that put in a pain stimulator, which has been life-saving for me and helped me cope and try and keep me off the strong pain drugs that are not good for you. I do have medicinal cannabis, which I take from time to time. But apart from that, Panadol, Osteo, that's about it. The majority of days I don't need any medication. And I don't know how much you know about stimulators, but they help to block the pain. Now, this pain doctor, incredible man, he never doubted me for a second. And he came from the USA, so he had an understanding about tick-borne disease and what it can do to you. I've been to Germany for treatment, useless. I went and had stem cell therapy and exosomes, which were successful, but for about a year. My life has not been normal. I've lost best friends. I don't think half of them believe what is happening to me. They can't understand. I've been told that I would be a liability to go on trips with them, with groups like Probus. So there's still a lot of discrimination out there. But finally, by my pain specialist, I came across this professor, Professor Tish at St. Vincent's, who examined me and knew instantly what was wrong with me. He said, "It's not in your head. This is real." In fact, he said, "You're one of the worst cases I've ever seen because it's affected so many parts of my body." I'd read about the treatment for certain conditions, and I had in the back of my mind that it was dystonia. And I read up about the deep brain stimulation. Anyway, lucky for me, there's a new method of deep brain stimulation that they use for this disease, this condition, and Parkinson's, etc. And it's deep brain stimulation, but without having to drill into your brain. And they use magnets to actually alter part of your brain, I suppose. So in about 4 weeks, I should start treatment. And he seemed to think it would take about 6 treatments. So I'm hopeful that eventually I'll get my license back, which will give me back some normality and some freedom. I have to start all over again and find new friends. I guess they meant more to me than what I did to them. It's taught me a big lesson, to be empathetic to everybody, because you don't really know what's going on in that person's body or their mind. Well, I think I've rambled on enough, but that's just a very brief snapshot of how my immune system has been compromised. And I believe it was due to a tick. And I've had results that have confirmed that I am infected. But for those that know anything about the treatment, Australia doesn't believe in it. So we are not allowed to get any treatment. But it's too late for me now. It's embedded in my brain. There's so much wrong with our system. I believe that the government and the AMA are basically torturing us that have got this condition because they don't recognize it. Doctors and specialists have lost their licenses because they were trying to help us. Anyway, as I said before, I've spoken enough. I can't wait to meet you all at the conference, and I wish you all the best in the world. And please, keep strong. Keep hope in your heart. And don't let this disease run your life or ruin your life. Keep smiling, because you are able to. I know it's hard, but positivity and hope is a wonderful thing. Bye.